and welcome to Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, joined by my co-host, Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspections.
Smash like and subscribe. We want you on the YouTubes and the Facebooks and the X's coming down and liking our show. Oh. Adam Talley from Talley Insurance will second that.
Yes.
He's in the house on time
I was
this week.
To like and subscribe on my phone right now.
Did you strap a bomb to the back of your phone?
This is a battery charging pack.
Okay.
Like phones aren't thick enough nowadays. You gotta.
I like really bulky pockets, so yeah.
And we have our guest of the hour, Miss Danielle Evans with Gateway Appraisal Services in the house. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So every once in a while we have to pivot and move stuff, and guests move all the time. Like that's why we have people on back to back. But we had something that happened this week. We're like, that's a great topic. So we're going to talk about what happens when you get a low appraisal and what do you do about it. So I've got some pretty good questions sort of outlined that Danielle's going to be able to run through this hour. So stick around for that. Let's run into the market numbers for this week. So the number of new listings, very consistent, in line with last week, coming in at 957. The number of price increases, 117. They finally got the move on that one. The number of price decreases coming in at 1269. Back on the market, that's our temporaries, or went pending, came back on 251. Our number of sold listings is coming in at 764. So just a little under those new listings on the market. And the number of pending listings coming in at 956. That's pretty strong.
Yeah, we've been pretty stable.
Almost exactly the same as the new listings. That's good turnover.
And I got confused between this week's numbers and last week's numbers. They're almost identical.
They are very, very similar. I noticed that too.
With the exception of price increases, of course.
Well, when you guys were getting those rogue numbers when I was out, I'm surprised no one questioned anything, Leo.
What? There were 6,000 listings that one
Yeah,
week.
we're really happy for
very happy.
all the buyers.
You, Mr. Detail, attention to all little things
I noticed
like that.
it immediately.
Then why didn't you say, hey, these numbers look really different?
I did.
Are you sure this is right?
And then we joked for 15 minutes.
We joked for 15 minutes about it because I looked at it and it wasn't like we could actually get new numbers pulled.
Yes, you could. You
No, we
should
couldn't.
just, at least said,
No,
hey.
there was a reason why the numbers were that far off, and we couldn't get new numbers pulled. We tried.
Well,
I did do 10 straight dad jokes about it, though.
Okay, well, those are
really
accurate.
They were good groaners.
Yeah.
These listings are accurate, so we look at this to measure how the market's doing. Of course, that's different for every single neighborhood. I'm sure Danielle will chime in on this as well. We talk a lot about absorption rate, and that's basically supply and demand. So how many months' supply of homes is available compared to the number of buyers in the market? So it's the supply and demand, how fast or slow stuff moves, and approximately how long it might take your house to sell. So not the absorption rate, but that's how we predict if it's going to sell right away in a month or 2 months or whatever. And every neighborhood is different. So you might have a higher absorption rate in one neighborhood compared to another one in a completely different area. So generically speaking, in the Tampa market, we're still about a 4-month supply? I think overall, when I looked at it last.
It's somewhere between 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I think it was creeping up a little.
Creeping up. No, 6 is balanced. We're creeping up. I mean, we were as low as 1.5 at one point, and we've been hanging out between 2 and 3. So
No.
Closer to 4 now.
We got as low as like a 1 week absorption rate. Remember, it was like point.
Oh, it was crazy. There just weren't enough houses.
Right.
I missed those days. I could say that Beryl Project Engineering was sponsoring an open house, and just the mere announcement of that got 30 offers on the table. I missed those days.
So to get an idea which way this pendulum is swinging, really look at the number of new listings compared to the number of sold. So pending is neck and neck, right? They're right there together, like almost one house off. Like it's almost the same exact number.
I feel sorry for this one house, though. 957 new listings, 956 went pending. I feel sorry for that one house.
But 764 are selling. So that tells us still that yet more inventory is entering the market. We can also look at the stuff that's withdrawn and expired and that or canceled. That may balance some of it out because they may come back on the market. So it's a little bit hard to tell. But these numbers are pretty in line enough to where it will start ticking up slowly, which is a good thing.
So when we add, that's a good example. When we take our new listings and we add our sold to withdrawn to canceled, they're about even.
So hence we're pretty stable. Like it's a stable market in terms of what's happening. In terms of how Danielle marks stable on the appraisal, that's different.
It goes by neighborhood.
Yeah. Neighborhood and supply and demand. So let's turn you down so you can get that little frog out of your throat. So, oh wait, hold on, that's Adam. Let me fix this.
Let's
here.
turn everyone down but Leo.
All right. So let's get that little frog out of your
I'm
throat.
back,
We'll come back.
folks.
So on the appraisal report, it's different. We're going to talk about how to read that, but basically the supply and demand in that neighborhood and in the immediate area, it's Danielle, what is it? Stable, unstable,
Right.
and balanced, or what is it again? No.
Right now, we're increasing.
Increasing,
For
that's what
Tampa
it is.
Bay, we're
Yeah.
increasing. And I none of the counties I'm in are stable. They're all increasing.
It baffles my mind that we'll get one appraisal to the next and one marks as stable, and it's like we're not stable.
We're not stable.
Some of them were marked as stable when there was a 2-week absorption rate. I'm like, are you out of your mind?
I haven't done anything but increasing since the pandemic.
Because we're pretty. I mean, it's still a really
and
strong
each
market.
pocket is improving. Each pocket is increasing, and when people see like the dip in, it's because they overpriced. They put it on the market too high,
Thinking it was 2
had
years ago.
and so they're seeing the prices being adjusted before they sell, and it's just hysteria.
And if you're chasing the declining market, you're gonna chase the bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
What's
Which it's not declining. So
Yeah.
that sounds like an oxymoron, what we just said, if you think about that.
I mean, there's 1,269 price decreases.
That's what it is. They're adjusting. They're going on the market super high. They're wasting time.
They're chasing a bad
and
number.
6 weeks later,
They're chasing
they're
a bad number. That sounds
finally
better.
bringing it down to where it needs to be. There are still agents out there that believe these houses are going to go under bidding war.
Well, and the ones that are priced correctly and they
They
show
will.
well, they do.
And we're seeing better with the agents that are pricing it directly below. The buyers think they're getting a deal, and those are the ones that are getting 3 and 4
I
offers.
love the ones that walk away and they hand me the keys and they go, here you go, you fix it, do everything we need to get it done. I'll get multiple offers on those because I get a listing budget.
Yeah.
I go in, I figure out where to use that money, and I'll get multiple offers on it.
what neighborhoods are you seeing that are like, I guess, the busiest, or maybe not the busiest, but are the toughest to buy in, I guess, which where it's still.
Well, Starkey Ranch isn't building anymore. So
Oh, they stopped?
well, they've
They're out of
finished.
land, aren't they,
They
where they're
finished.
building?
They've built and sold the last home.
So it's pretty
So
competitive
now,
over there.
So now it's Starkey subdivision?
So now, well,
they
the
release
people that
it.
want to be in Starkey Ranch have to buy a resale now. They can no longer buy a brand new construction, and that is pushing people people want brand spanking new constructions. They want them.
So that's a
they're
good-
pushing them up towards Land O'Lakes.
That's a good question. So you got a place like Starkey Subdivision. Can't call it Starkey Ranch anymore. No more horses. Starkey
It's a
Subdivision.
ranch of houses.
Yeah.
You have Starkey Subdivision. They've sold out of regular houses, and now you're on the resale market. Is there a little bump up from that, or a bump down?
Oh, no. They have people that have bought in Starkey Ranch when they first started building. They bought at $350,000, and today that same exact home, if there's a pool
8,
in it, it's worth
9.
With a pool, it's worth $1 million. Without a pool, it's worth 7 to 9.
That's crazy.
And
Yeah.
these are track homes that they bought for $300,000,
But
$400,000.
if you look at all the development up near 52, that's why that area is
52
so
is
crazy,
blowing
because
up.
it's still south.
41 and 52 is the next hot.
I was
spot.
having
And for
this,
our out-of-town listeners, those are roads.
yes, they are. So I was having this conversation yesterday with a local lady that lives here in Land O'Lakes, and we were saying back in the day, when I moved to the area over 20 years ago, it was so far away. And even when I was a kid, my grandmother and my uncle, they lived in Lutz, and it was just so far away.
So who's
And it's
paying
like
them-
it's not far anymore.
Who's paying $1 million to live in a resale in Starkey Subdivision, though?
They're closing every day.
The pool. It's the
It's
pool.
every day they're closing.
So no pool. What are you getting in Starkey right now?
$700,000-800,000.
It depends on the size, too,
and it
but
depends
yeah.
on the size of the home. And if you're at the front of the subdivision,
Size, condition.
it's a little bit less. The
Well, those are
back or-
older
the
ones
first
in the front.
phase is
Yeah.
probably the only one that's.
They're
on the
older
lower end.
homes. Those homes are what? Some of those are need roofs.
Yeah,
At this point.
almost right.
They all need
Yeah.
white roofs.
They
That's
do.
What they need.
The only way to fight global warming correctly.
Let's talk about the interest rates for a moment. There's a couple things I just want to talk talk on as it relates to that, and then we'll jump into the appraisal stuff because we have plenty of stuff to cover on that. So remember earlier in the year when we were talking about interest rates and everyone kept saying, oh, we're going to have a couple of rate decreases this year. Do you guys remember that? And I said, no, I don't think so. If we have one, we're going to be lucky, but I don't think we're going to have any. I think the feds are going to keep the rates right where they are. Do you guys remember me saying that?
I do.
It's all recorded. It's all of our stuff goes to a podcast.
Conspiracy to get
receipts.
It's a
So if you just go to
conspiracy to
Tampa Home
get the
Talk.
Republicans reelected.
Oh, it has nothing to do with politics.
It has everything. Let's be honest.
No, it does not.
When they're playing with money at that level, and the president gets blamed for
And the
job
gas
economies and everything
I'm
else.
not going to say that a political year doesn't impact it because it does.
It does.
But there's
Wait, what'd you say,
other.
Dana?
There's
She
gas,
said
the gas
prices.
prices are bipolar right now. They're 35 cents difference in one day.
Yes.
And it went up, down, up, down, up, down all
Well,
last week.
That's politically driven for
That
sure.
absolutely.
But I can tell you with regards
You
to
can't politically drive the Costco hot dog though. That's always $1.50. That's the deal.
with regards to interest
And you can get a
rates.
whole meal if you just walk around a Costco on a Saturday afternoon.
You can. I love that place.
Pretty sure someone's looking for information on real estate stuff and not Costco hot dog
They should be.
values, I'm
They
sure.
should be
But
getting that info too. That's important stuff.
God, what was
I
gonna
am not
say?
buying a house
Interest
that's not
rates.
centrally located to a Sam's Club or
So-
a Costco.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Okay, back to the real juice of the show. What I was trying to say.
We're not doing draft coverage in Costco.
The hot dog
dogs?
juice?
The interest rates.
Hot
They're
dog juice.
looking at unemployment numbers. They are looking at retail sales. They're looking at all that sort of stuff to see if people are spending money. Do they have jobs? Those sort of things affect the rates and whether or not the Fed is going to increase or change. And it all ties into inflation. And so they hiked up the rates, obviously, so aggressively to slow the inflation train down. But historically speaking, if you look back, we're right where we should be on the interest rates. And I think they're going to be a little bit higher for a while. I really do. And now the feds are talking about actually possibly increasing it another 0.25%. So if you're on the fence and you're waiting, you've been thinking about buying or trading up or trading down or moving locations for your job, I would not wait. Because I think it's going to continue to climb.
We were supposed to get a couple of decreases this year. Not only are we not getting our decreases, they're going to increase it right before the elections.
I think it's going to.
I think it's going to.
It's going to hike a quarter at some point. It might be after the elections, but they have to because of the retail sales and the unemployment numbers. That suggests that they need to continue to hike the rates because of inflation. I mean, it's just the way it is. 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number. If you want to give information, get ahead of this. My prediction is we're going to hit 8 to 9. I think it's a high likelihood. 813-377-2775. We'll be right back.
Woof.
Welcome home. This is Adam. Just asked me the tough question during the break.
It might be a question for the air.
This sounds like a question for the air. Adam Talley's insurance question of the week. Toledo Kane's Beryl Engineering and Inspection.
But we do have some good chatter during
Yes,
the break when we're off air,
always.
and many times that needs to come back on the air because it's really good stuff people want
Ask
to
your
hear.
question.
So, commercial building.
Commercial building.
Okay, so, standard as you would see basic retail centers. So the roof is, flat metal with the modified,
Metal deck, modified bitumen on top.
Yeah. So what do you give those on life range?
Okay, so House Bill 1121 or Senate Bill 1178 this year defines the roof age for various roofing materials.
Okay.
Oh, good. They finally cleaned that up?
So it goes into effect on...
I don't read it, but you do. So I
It
get
goes
my
into
update from you.
effect on July 1. It's also attached to the Structural Integrity Reserve Study bill that I keep talking about. It's the same bill. But it does define the useful life. So in that table, they're defining tile at 50 years, which is
Okay. That's
applause.
pretty good, yeah.
They're defining shingles at 15, which I disagree with because they're lumping 3-tab shingles, 30-year shingles, and 50-year shingles into shingles.
So why not just get the cheaper one, people?
What if you're going to have to change it so much?
They're going to make you change it for
They're making
insurance
changes.
anyway.
And then they did not specify metal roof. So if you're metal...
What?
So metal roof fits into the other category, and the other category is the same as flat roof, which is 20. So your 12-year modified bitumen roof, which the one you were just talking about, now has a 20-year useful life. Your 25-year TPO roof has a 20-year useful life. And your
50-year, like
50-plus year metal roof now has a 20-year useful life.
Yeah, no way. Not
so
happening.
there was a mistake in the bill that no one caught, that by the time I caught it and tried ringing people's doorbells, it was too late. But
What bill is that? We need to
it is
get an
House
amendment.
Bill 1120, House Bill 1121 or Senate Bill 1178. So basically that has a life expectancy table for roofs. And the way that citizens finally got their shingle roof thing through was they said this will help define the age of roofs for reserve studies. And that's how they finally got it through, to lower a shingle roof, which used to be 25 or 20 years, depending if it was architectural or 3-tab. They've actually managed to lower all shingle roofs to 15, but they've managed to raise a 12-year roof to 20, which is beyond me.
It's wild because, when before COVID, we'll just call it since COVID, that because
BC and ACE.
Yeah,
AC.
well, COVID didn't really necessarily have an effect on the insurance industry, but that coincidentally was about the same time that everything we started losing carriers and everything.
No, you know why? It was between the hurricanes and then people making these claims on their roofs to get them replaced under insurance. It's the whole sinkhole lottery
I was
thing
just
back
putting
in the
a
day.
timestamp.
It just happened to be
I
after
still
COVID.
have the question to ask. Are the insurance companies saving money by spending $100,000 to fight a $10,000 claim?
Well, they're not, which is why they had to, kind of redo all the language because, they were having to pay claims maybe they wouldn't have in the past. But
I don't know why they didn't just do a depreciation based on
most of
the
them are
schedule.
now. But what I was going to
I
say
would
is
agree with that.
Pre-COVID, right?
Depreciation.
PC, we'll say pre-COVID. On those 3-tab shingles, you were getting 15 years or newer with most carriers. They'll take them at new business. And 20 years on the architectural. So to now see it at 15, I mean, they're really hammering them.
Well, they were pushing for 10 years for the past 3. They were really pushing the 10.
I could see that on 3-tab, but not on architectural.
I can't see that on
Here's the
3-tab.
thing. Even though we don't agree with this, if you got 15 years out of your architectural shingles, which is the ones that overlap and lay on top of each other, at least if the insurance company is depreciating it and you have to buy a new roof after your roof is 15 years old, I get it.
You're missing a key point there. If your shingles last 15 years and your 4-point says you have 3 or less years of useful life left, the insurance company forces you to change your roof. So that 15 is really 12.
But that's the point. I think the insurance company should not be forcing you to change it. They should just be depreciating the cost of your roof if you try to make a claim on it. What I see all the time is sometimes they'll make sellers rip off a roof that really is good. It might have 5 or more years on it, but they have to rip it off because they say it has less than 3 years.
We have a
per these
condo.
standards.
We have a condo building that they're ripping an entire metal roof that is only 17 years old. And they're ripping it, and they're assessing the entire condo $41,000 each unit.
Ooh.
We need
I keep getting questions recently about the age of metal roofs.
And that was my question,
and
too. I was
now
gonna
it
ask you
makes
that.
sense because they forgot to put that into the bill table.
Metal used to be like 100. It was
Yes,
theory on 100.
that's what
That
I
was the
was
best
gonna
roof.
say.
That's why I went with a metal roof.
So-
That's why my whole neighborhood is
Leo,
metal roofs.
And
Leo,
now we have
please-
17-year-old metal roofs being removed.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
What
Talk about
landfill
that,
are we
because that's
filling
my
this
question.
with?
Realistically speaking, the way your engineering brain
Yeah.
works, a metal roof should last 100 years if it's properly maintained, couldn't
Oh
it?
yeah, if it's properly maintained and spray coated, like painted every
How
so
often?
often, 100+ years if it's maintained.
No. You said
How often to paint it?
How
How often to paint? I mean, I would probably paint that every 10, 15 years at most. I mean, just give it another coating. Make sure your fasteners. Now, there's 2 different types of metal roofs. You've got your standing seam roof with a crimp and without the crimp. And
Describe that. What does that look
so
like?
basically, if you look up at a roof and if you see a bunch of fasteners in the roof, like a bunch of how the roof is drilled down to the deck, that's going to be a more traditional, older style metal roof. With those roofs, you have to basically once every 5 years put some more silicone on those fasteners to make sure that that's your water intrusion points. But if you have one of those standing seam roofs that don't have the fasteners, that just the panels just kind of crimp over each other, and that's how the roof stays on. So with that roof, you don't have the fasteners. So that roof truly can last up to 100 years. And that's the roof I have on my house. Because I know the fastener points are where that weakness is. So you're in a situation now where I guess the insurance company is saying people don't maintain their roofs, so we're going to punish everyone and assume that they're not maintaining them at all. There should be things like when I go to trade in my car, I present, here are my maintenance logs, here's my maintenance records, here's how I'm upkeeping this asset. There should be something similar on the roof side. We got these yearly inspections. We've been doing this maintenance activity. We've been tending to the roof. One, if you do have a claim,
Leo, I
there's
don't
a
know that
record share.
everyone's going to I get you, but I don't know that everyone's going to have that so organized.
I will say, speaking of maintenance,
honestly.
But you should be maintaining your property.
I agree.
You know how many houses we go in, though, and people will rehab their kitchen while they have an active roof leak.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it, and we can't even make this up.
I think the solution is for insurance companies to depreciate the payout on it over time. Even if they go off this, you don't have to rewrite the whole bill, but at least you as the homeowner can take the risk that if a hurricane rips off your roof, you just have to pay for a roof versus they're going to drop me or double my insurance.
I like the depreciation.
So that you're seeing that is very common. That's coming out on a lot of policies these days.
And are they keeping the
payment schedule?
Are they keeping the premium normal?
You get a discount for it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you get a discount for doing it.
Because see, for me, that's probably the reason why I wouldn't live in a condo. But I'm not ripping off a 17-year-old metal roof. That's not happening.
Yeah.
No way.
Speaking of maintenance, something cool that's coming out with a handful of carriers, and we'll probably see more pick it up, is you get a discount now if you have a HVAC maintenance contract. So if you have, so like I go with Comfort Authority, they come twice a year. They look at everything, and what they're finding is people that do that and other kind of maintenance, they have less
probably
claims.
take care of everything else. Exactly.
Well, you're not worried about the drip pan where your, air conditioning's at overflowing into the.
So there's an underwriter actually thinking about this from a common sense perspective and trying to make
multiple underwriters that are thinking outside the box when it comes to rates and how to attract the right clients.
I think it's common sense to me if you're, if we're being real.
It is, but you also got to remember too, a lot of things that you guys are talking about is citizen specific. A lot of other carriers have more leeway to kind of do what they want. So the laws and stuff that pass, Citizens, trying to call Citizens is, my God, it's the worst. It's like trying to call Verizon or something. Like, it's awful. And they read from a script. They can't see anything but black and white. So there's no reasoning with common sense with them.
All right, so let's get to the meat of our show, which is what should you do if you get a low appraisal? And so Danielle,
burn the house down.
We're going to talk about this. Somebody we know had they sent it to Danielle, and then we started talking about it because we both know the property. We're familiar with it. We've been there. This happens to be a property on the water.
And we've watched her rehab
Correct. With an
for
accessory
a decade.
Dwelling. It's beautiful. It's an amazing property. So we have without looking at comps, you and I have a general idea. We know what that house would sell for.
Yes.
And so this just made a great topic for radio. How do we discuss this? And so number one is understand what type of appraisal report you have. So you and I were talking about this and we nailed it. But so talk from that point. So the first thing is understand what kind of appraisal report you have. I guess we're going to give out our off-air number and then come back to that after the break. Sorry, Danielle. 813-377-2775. That's our off-air number. If you've got a question, you want some more information, you want to get evaluation on your home, you're thinking about selling, you want some accurate info. 813-377-2775. We're in the house with Danielle Evans. When we come back, we're going to talk about what should you do if you get a low appraisal. We're going to give you 8 rockin' tips to get you through that process, and then we're going to dive into each one of those. Again, our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text us to our off-air number, 813-377-2775. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell, hanging out with Leo, Adam, and Danielle. And we'll be back right after this break, so stick around. Welcome home. This is Tampa Home Talk. Thanks for hanging out during the break. And we're back today to talk about what should you do if you get a low appraisal with Danielle Evans, Gateway Appraisal Services. And our off-air number one more time is 813-377-2775. 813-377-2775. So tip number one, and we'll chat about this, is understand what type of appraisal report you have.
Absolutely.
How does someone do that?
Really listen to the lender and what they're ordering right out of the gate. And there's hybrid appraisals. That's where a non-appraiser comes out and does an interior inspection, and the certified appraiser never leaves the desk. I do not personally agree with these. I do not perform them, and I wouldn't rely on them. The appraiser should enter the inside of your home if you want credit for what's inside of your home.
We're seeing a lot of different things in the market with technology and AI.
Oh, there's AVMs, there's drive-bys, the hybrid appraisals, and
what's that AVM?
An
for
AVM
those
is
uninitiated?
it's an automated valuation module. It's the same thing as a Zillow search. It can't tell if you have a pool in the backyard, can't tell if you're sitting on a river. It's just a Zillow search.
Well,
it's an
it
algorithm.
doesn't know what updates you have in your home. It doesn't know if it looks like
I
trash.
I would say a CMA or a BPO from a real estate agent would be more accurate than an AVM or a hybrid appraisal. I believe hybrid appraisals are completed by people that aren't even local.
So we know someone that was getting a home equity loan redone, and they originally were going to do a waiver.
Initially, there was an appraisal waiver, and then they came back to her and said, we're going to do a drive-by. She voiced her concerns about the drive-by because she has an accessory dwelling unit that's rented out.
Which is like a mother-in-law suite.
It's a mother-in-law suite, and she's on a river.
What's a really nice update.
A really nice river in downtown.
You can see a river on a drive-by.
You can. And they did drive by and they took exterior photos, but they missed the entire apartment.
Well, you can't see the river.
Called it a utility. Missed the river because they just didn't see it from the street.
How do you miss a river?
I'm not really sure. But they used homes on a busy street with no river as comparable sales. They appraised the property for below assessed value.
That's smart.
On an improved home.
So understanding what type of appraisal report you have, the second tip is review the appraisal in detail, and I would tag on to that and say consider hiring an expert that actually knows how to read the report, because these appraisals are several pages. It's very hard to understand them unless you know how to read them, or you're an appraiser or you're someone with that background that knows how to read them.
Especially because the appraisals written for lenders are written for lenders. They have codes in them. There is a key at the end of the appraisal that those codes are, the explanation is there. But unless you read all 100 pages of these reports, you're not going to understand it like a lender.
The consumer doesn't know what to look for, right?
Exactly.
So if you C2, C3,
where an
C4,
appraiser can pick out the page and the section necessary to determine if errors were made.
So if I wanted to review an appraisal with an expert, would I call you? Would I call Katrina?
We could both do it. We both know how to read
can.
it. She's going to be better. Sometimes we'll put our hats on it together because she does it, right, for a living. But I know how to read the appraisal reports as well. She's probably going to, I'll catch mistakes on it. She'll catch more, I think.
Yeah, and we can't write a written report on a review. Like, we can't really write rebuttals.
But you can go through it.
But we can go through it and have a consultation with a customer about it.
So my third tip on it is look for missing or incorrect, inaccurate information. So what are some of the top mistakes that you see if you're looking at an appraisal and someone's like, this appraisal is what? What do you see in there? We've seen adjustments the wrong way.
Well,
and
discrepancies on the gross living area is huge because that's where all your value comes from. So discrepancies in the appraisal, if it's going off of bad records, if an appraiser never went inside, they don't know
condition.
They don't know the condition. They also don't know where enclosed porches have been added to gross living area properly and it hasn't been recorded yet on public records to show. It could take 3 years for an addition to show up on public records. So if you have a drive-by appraisal done, the appraiser's never going to know. Your house in Connerton, you're putting a pool in right now. There's not an appraiser besides me that's going to know there's a pool there because I told you to put it there.
We talked about it. You're right. You did.
And it could be 2 to 3 years before that pool shows up on your public records, depending on how slow the county's going.
Right. And so what other incorrect information? I've seen adjustments the wrong way.
Oh,
so
adjustments the wrong way. Bedroom and bathroom count.
Well, to explain it to the consumer, you have your subject property, then you have the comparables next to it, and they never add or subtract from the subject, only the comparables. Yes. So explain what that means when you do it the wrong way.
If the comparable sale is superior, you subtract. If it's inferior, you add. And a lot of times appraisers accidentally will have the positive when it's supposed to be a negative.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about a pool, right?
Yep.
So your subject property has a pool. You're looking at a comparable home. It's really comparable. It just doesn't have a pool.
So in that case, it would be a positive adjustment on the comparable sale.
Meaning you're adding a value
for
to
the
the pool
pool
for what that home would have if it had
Yes,
it.
and that's really common in new construction when there's only 1 or 2 pool homes and we're forced to use a non-pool home. We have to use it, and those are huge adjustments. $160,000 adjustment for a pool right now in a neighborhood like yours, and upwards to $200,000 depending on what that pool looks like. The cage, the patio, is there a spa, fire bowls? You know how elaborate they get.
Yes.
And the days of $20,000 adjustments for pools are far gone.
You can't even fix your pool for $20,000.
We're seeing homes double in price because a pool was put in.
Can't even get the screen for $20,000.
So that's a good point, and you're looking at all these numbers in this grid section on an appraisal, and you have to slow down. And like for me, you can look at it quicker than me, but I have to look at it and slow down and realize, did they adjust the wrong way? Did they not? And really open it up, and look at the comp.
And did they step outside of the market area? You're not going to find comps outside of the neighborhood boundaries.
Step four right there is gather good comparables.
Yes.
So using the same parameters that an appraiser follows. That's exactly what you're talking about.
You know, an appraiser can go a mile away. However, if it's outside of the actual market area, we're not going to dip into other developments just to find value.
Right. And homes are different, right? So if you have a unique property or you have something with land or it's a larger home, we've talked about that.
Search.
What if it's 5,000 or 6,000 square foot? You're probably going to have to go out more than a mile.
And that's when it's a needle in a haystack, and we're finding the comps from that haystack and one needle at a time.
So
in a cookie cutter development, we shouldn't be leaving the cookie cutter development.
Right. Good point. So gather good comparables. A general rule of thumb, and this is what I pull. I was taught to do comps from an appraiser, so we're probably going to think a lot alike in that respect, but I'll pull within a mile of the subject property, within 20% of the square footage. We disregard bedrooms and bathrooms for the most part.
Yep.
And then appraisers also try not to cross major lines, and they're getting tough on that.
Major thoroughfares, large bodies of water, they don't want you to cross over that. It's really outside of the market area.
So question. So like, for example, I live in Seminole Heights, right? And there's a couple builders that build a lot of homes in that area, like Viking, for example.
Yep.
So like, if you have one Viking home, are you looking for other, like, from the same builder in that same area?
We're looking for one from the same builder, but not all of them from the same builder, because then they are setting the price in the market. So
we have to think
we're going to take a variety.
When an appraiser or an agent pulls data, we're pulling a bunch of data.
Oh.
And then we have to sort of look in there
and narrow it down.
Limit stuff, right, to
There's
find the best
times
ones.
where we pull 30 to 40 comps and narrow it down to 12, and then from that 12 we narrow it down to 4.
Sometimes that initial search has even more.
Oh,
like
hundreds,
in Seminole
yeah,
Heights,
absolutely.
You will have hundreds of pieces of data, and the worst part is in the valuations you'll have a spread of $300,000.
Yes. And in
Not all
2022 we saw
1,600 square
that.
foot homes are created equally.
Well, hence an area like Seminole Heights where you have old with a new, you're not going to compare a 19 whatever built home to something brand new.
No,
You're just not going to compare it.
Yeah.
And we will go further away for new construction. We will.
Yeah, well,
have no
you
choice.
have to in an area like that.
That's
You
fully
definitely do.
grown and built like that. We have no choice.
So the fifth thing you should do if you get a low appraisal is request a reconsideration of value or a different appraisal type. And there's an art and a science to these reconsiderations
Absolutely.
of value. I'll talk about it from the real estate perspective, and Danielle, you talk about it from the appraiser's perspective. So when you get a reconsideration of value, talk about some of the things you've seen. And lenders have tried to streamline this. Like I used to write a whole paragraph with a bunch of facts
Now
and
they
data.
just want
Now
your
they
address.
won't do it.
They want specific addresses, and they don't really want to know
Any extra info.
And the appraiser is required to analyze those sales, put them in the report if they warrant being in the report. If in my cases when this has happened, the comparable sales belonged in the report, and it was an oversight, and sometimes it didn't go into the system in time. When I built the file, it could have been before the effective date. It could have been a 2-day gap because I built the file 2 days before I inspected the house.
Could be 1 day.
It could be 1 day. We've seen it be 6 hours. And so, and especially when you're in there clicking it from pending to sold, we have it in our file as pending. By the time it gets to the lender, it truly had sold, and we have to correct that, and it's an oversight.
And some appraisers get a little,
they get
if
mad.
You catch an error, they don't like it, but they did make an error.
We do have a little Napoleon syndrome. Appraisers
There's a human element to
we do.
life,
We are know-it-alls. We really are all know-it-alls.
So you and the
by
engineers
nature.
get along
By
pretty
nature,
good.
So discuss a reconsideration of value with the lender. What type of things are we seeing? Because they've really streamlined this, and every lender is a little bit different. But in that reconsideration of value, what information can you give? You can give a new address that maybe they didn't consider.
The new addresses that weren't considered, and why you would choose them over the ones that were considered. And then any errors found in the report need to be called out in depth and said, hey, the way we look at an appraisal is two sources make it a fact. Every single box in an appraisal is supposed to be fact checked. There shouldn't be any mistakes, and mistakes lead to fraud. So if you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again, it's no longer a mistake. You're supposed to verify each and every sale, each and every appraisal, each and every time. You start building a comp database full of mistakes, you're now committing fraud every time you use that comp, and with misleading information in it over and over and over again.
The reconsideration.
Is that rampant in
but it is something
Appraisers
that we
are careful, I
find.
think.
We are very careful because our licenses are taken away from us so easily.
So the reconsideration of value only addresses that they didn't use. What about when they've used a comp they shouldn't have used?
You can state this comp shouldn't have been used, and this is why, and the appraiser will come back and say, okay,
try to defend it.
To try to defend it. Yes. Now, appraisers call agents and verify sales. That's something that a homeowner doesn't always consider, and the homeowners don't always consider sales concessions. We remove dollar for sales concessions, and that's many
gonna
times.
get interesting.
Many times, sellers and buyers and the homeowners in general, they don't understand it. But it was free money.
So number 6 in our third to the bottom in tips is discuss it with the lender. So you need to get the reconsideration of value, talk to the lender on why it's not accurate, and if you still can't get anywhere, you might want to consider switching lenders.
Get written permission from the lender to contact the appraiser. You need written permission to speak to me after I've signed the appraisal.
Yeah,
I
because don't forget the bank is a customer.
I cannot, by Florida state law, use PAP, every intended user in there.
All right,
we
this
cannot
is
talk to
Tampa
the
Home
homeowner.
Talk. We'll be right back. Stick around.
Welcome home. This is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection. Rounding out the top of the hour, we unfortunately don't have any listings to share on the air, but we do have more appraisal.
We'll get
do
through
with
them.
listings?
What night? Wait. Real quick. Let's finish this real quick. We can do it next, okay? All right. So what do you do if you get a low appraisal? There was 8 great tips we gave you, and we're going to finish off with Danielle's thought, round it out, and then we're going to talk about the listing. So to recap, tip number 1, understand what type of appraisal report you have. Number 2, review the appraisal in detail and consider hiring an expert that knows how to read that report. Tip number 3, look for missing or incorrect information. Tip number 4 is gather good comparable home sales, same data and parameters that the appraiser would follow. Tip number 5 is request a reconsideration of value. Tip number 6 is discuss it with your lender. Number 7 is if you still can't get anywhere, consider switching lenders. And number 8, if you have serious appraisal concerns, consider a complaint to a higher authority, like the State Appraisal Board or the Consumer Protection Agency. Before we go down that route, let's finish your thought really quick. People get confused because even though a homeowner or a buyer pays for the appraisal report, it technically belongs to the lender. So the appraiser can't talk to them, which is what Danielle was trying to say before the break.
Our hands are tied behind our back. We have the intended user of the appraisal is the bank. And without the bank's written authorization, we can't speak to anybody, including the bank, We can't speak to anybody. Once we sign the appraisal and submit it without written permission, we can't discuss anything about that appraisal with anyone. Real estate agents, buyers, sellers, none of them.
Keep in mind, your lenders are ordering it because it's for them. They want to make sure they're not over-lending on the property. It's not for you.
Now, I do have a question. Do you ever get in a situation where a home buyer that's potentially going to be listing a house that they get like a pre-appraisal to kind of like make sure the market is where they're going to list it, or do they just lean on the realtor?
I complete pre-listing appraisals and for refinances for people that are going to go and they're going to start shopping for a lender. They want to know what their home's going to appraise for before talking to the lender.
Well, and sometimes
we have a lot of people that do that.
Sometimes when the lenders order, it's just a turn them, burn them, cram them, get them done. You're more likely to mistakes. Where if a homeowner or a buyer is hiring you directly, you're probably going to spend a little more time.
We spend a good amount of time with them and the whole situation. It's a consultation. We will tell them do this, this, and this to make their value higher. So we help them when we go in and they want to refinance because they want to change their situation. We let them know where to put the money in the home first.
So if you need a formal appraisal, Danielle can help you. If you need a CMA, I can help you. A good time to get them is death, divorce, probate, refinance. I mean, those are a lot of people.
Litigation is very busy right now, too. It's very hard to find an appraiser for expert testimony and for any litigation purposes. Appraisers are swamped in the court system.
So 813-377-2775 if you'd like to connect with myself to get a value, Danielle for an appraisal. Maybe you want both. Our numbers are always pretty spot on, I'll tell you. They really are. 813-377-2775. That's our offer number. And Leo is patiently waiting to jump into our listings of the week.
Don't forget the sponsors for the listings, Leo.
Do we have any open houses?
I think Wedgefield, the first one you're going to talk about, is having an open house, but I don't know when. I think Sunday.
Awesome. Then we can. Beryl Project Engineering is proud to sponsor the announcement of an open house this coming weekend at 5909 Wedgefield Drive in Zephyr Hills. This lovely 2006 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with a front gable like a garage that just kind of meets the street. This is an awesome house, $550,000. Make sure you check it out Sunday.
That actually is great. Let me tell you a couple things about it.
No, I like the garage. It's got a triple
well,
garage.
Inside, it's got a separate little area set up that's perfect for like a mother-in-law suite. I know this family, we sold them the home, and her mom lived there, and it's got a really great setup for that. And in the back, it has a huge Florida room, which also is a screen room. And
come check it out this Sunday. We have an open house from 12 to 3.
I think it's 12 to 3. It might be a little later. Go ahead. Next property.
Next we have 13117 Marbled Godwin Road in Weeki Wachee. This is a beautiful 2007 home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. What I really like about this home is it's in Weeki Wachee, and it is on about half an acre. Now, if you've never been to Weeki Wachee lately, it's got a beautiful river. Since we've been talking about rivers most of the hour, you can take your inflatable kayak out there and just have a great time every single weekend.
They probably have real kayaks too if you don't want to do inflatable.
It's starting to get into manatee season, so you can see a bunch of manatees in the water.
It's starting. They've been there. They're leaving.
Well, when are we going to talk about the love bugs? Where are they this year?
Oh, it's...
Is anybody really missing them?
They're on the front of my car.
They're on the front of my car from last year. So this one is $379,000. Own a piece of Weeki Wachee, 2007 home, half acre. Next we got 35580 Burma Reed Drive, Zephyr Hills.
It's a rental.
This is a rental, so if you don't want to buy right now because you think interest rates are going to go somewhere and housing prices are going to do something, maybe a rental is right for you. 2021 built home, so it's basically new. It's in the Silverado Ranch subdivision. Or shall we call this the Silverado subdivision?
It's right on the Wesley Chapel Zephyr Hills border. Great property.
Yeah, this is a $2,200 a month property, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. This is just perfect. If you like condominiums, we have 831 Maple Court, number 209 in Dunedin, Florida. This is a 1980 built condominium. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, nice starter property.
Or second home, or a lot of ways.
It's a nice starter home for the 55 and up year community. So when you're finally getting ready to leave your house and enter into the condominium phase of your life again, this condo is waiting for you.
Aren't you about to go into that phase of your life?
Well, I'm not 55 and up. Not even close.
But aren't you getting a condo?
By the time that roof is up.
So the important things to know about this condominium in particular is the new roof assessment's been paid in full. I know there's a lot of scare out there about special assessments. This new roof assessment's been paid in full. New AC, new shower, Everything's new. Don't have to worry. You're right near the Clearwater Aquarium, which is a great place to see dolphins and manatees.
Yeah.
545 Hammock Drive, Palm Harbor, Florida. This one's status is pending, so should I even
It's
be
actually
announcing?
coming back on the market.
Coming back
She's
on the
back,
market.
I
folks.
believe.
She's back. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. This one is beautiful. It's on 1/3 of an acre.
Safety Harbor.
It's set,
Or Palm Harbor.
Palm Harbor. It's set back from the street, so you get more privacy. You got a longer driveway. That way you can have a house party and all your friends can park in the driveway.
Or if you have kids that drive.
And if you're having that house party, all your friends can park in the driveway.
In my case, it's kids that drive.
Okay. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Built in 1986. 500,000. And last, we have this beautiful floor plan. Is this built?
It's built.
Okay.
It's new.
This one is also a rental. This one is 8887 Little Blue Stream Drive in Land O'Lakes, Florida. It is renting right now. It is 6 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms.
2.5 with a pool.
How do you explain the 6 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms?
That's what it is. It is the downstairs one primary bedroom and likely an office, could be a bedroom.
Nice. So if you're looking for something in Land O'Lakes, like you just want to rent, get your bearings made, and then you can contact Katrina to find you a home, 8887 Little Blue Stream could be for you. Again, this is Leo Kane with Beryl Engineering and Inspection. If you want to get a hold of any more of these listings or find out more about our open house, 813-377-2775. It's 813-377-2775. We'll be back here next week. We've enjoyed having you on the air. We've enjoyed you hitting like. We've enjoyed you hitting subscribe. And we've enjoyed everything about this. See you next week.